Hello everyone. Welcome to the second session of Environment and Ecology in our monthly current affairs series of Amrita IS. Now in the first session we have seen the flora and the fauna and the 5 questions related to environment and ecology. In this session we'll continue it. Starting with the first one, that is the conservation and the international initiatives. Now from international perspective we have one initiative to be discussed, that is the Alliance to End the Plastic Waste. Plastic waste has become very critical, right? Because beat the plastic pollution has was the theme of World Environment Day 2 to 3 years back. India has pledged to remove the single use plastic by 2022. So these are some of the, that is why plastic waste become very important for our discussion. Now these alliances, these initiatives, these intergovernmental multi-stakeholder initiatives become very important because the UPSC has previously been asking the questions from these. For example, what type of question they ask? Majorly the question will be they'll give you the name of an alliance. For example, this, let's assume Alliance to End Plastic Waste. They will say it's a partnership of UNEP and, for example, governments and something like that. And there are so many such organizations to be remembered, and that becomes tricky. Okay? Hence, you need to pay an additional focus on such initiatives, especially the ones which are working in India, just like this one, and especially the one which are working on the important issues such as plastic waste, which is our national priority as well. Now this one is basically 50 companies have come together, right? Registered themselves as a non-profit organizations, and the idea is to this commitment to end the plastic waste. So find out the solutions to prevent the leakage, to create the supply chains, to create incentive for every stakeholder, to create a mass movement or to involve people, to bring about behavioral changes so as to bring about the elimination of the plastic change, and more importantly the plastic waste which is entering into the ocean, because it is said by 2050 there will be more weight of the plastic weight in the ocean than the fishes in the ocean, right? And that's a threatening scenario. So they have pledged to invest more than 1.5 billion coming together to invest in this. This is also a very good example of the responsible capitalism, because these are the companies, wealthy companies, venture capitals, private investor, and these people are coming together. So capitalism being responsible for the society and the environment. Now, for example, this one is not important for prelims, but let us see some points. For example, they talk about that they are guided by 10 fundamental concepts. They first of all, they're clear, the trends are clear. Thus, yes, plastic waste is mismanaged and it's going to cause a lot of harm to the environment. Secondly, they talk about think globally but act locally, because it is a global issue. But the real effect or real change can be brought if the local authorities, the local people are brought into the picture. The short-term solutions from where we can start. Tick. Then individual actions are not enough. Whether one country takes up or alliances of country takes up, that is not enough. We require partnership from diversity of partners. It's all about changing the behavior. We have to convert the waste to worth, because a lot of resources are being taken up to make plastic. So it is important that we use the wastage. So create a circular supply chain, public private partnership, projects and partnership, making a small solution and moving up the hierarchy. So basically these are the principles. Why I'm mentioning these principles? These principles can help you to write a good article or a good way forward in your essays or in your GS paper. Okay? Chalo. So what about India? So it has announced that it will spend around 70 to 100 million dollars in India over the period of 5 years. They have undertaken a project Aviral to reduce the plastic waste in the Ganga river, because that is their idea. For example, see this one. That is their idea that we need to focus on the rivers, because from the rivers the plastic waste will enter into the ocean. So first of all we need to act on the rivers also. So ultimately we can work on so that at the source we can catch it up. ठीक है, चलो. तो Singapore based NGO, yes, it is based in Singapore. ठीक है. So this one thing also you can keep in mind. It's a Singapore based NGO. चलो. So next, let's see one geography centric concept that was in the news. That is the boreal summer intra-seasonal oscillation. From the name itself, it seems to be very tough, but it's not that much tough. Okay? Now, what is this? Now, first of all, let me give the context. So, understanding the monsoon and the patterns of it, the variability of the monsoon is a very, very tricky task. In fact, our scientists from for a long, long time, not only India, globally, are trying very hard to come up with a consistent analysis, consistent pattern, consistent models so as to predict about the monsoon. But this is a very tough scenario because monsoon is linked up with multiple issues. For example, we have read about El Nino, La Nina, uh, that is Medellin-Julian oscillations is there. There is Indian Ocean dipole and a lot of things. Similarly, there is one more, that is Boreal Summer intra-seasonal operation oscillation. First thing you need to focus, that is intra-seasonal. So this oscillation happen in the only in the monsoon month. Okay, let us see more. So why it's in the news? Because the Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services, that is in Hyderabad, they have found a better way to forecast this phenomena, boreal summer intra-seasonal oscillation. They have found out that this oscillation, which first of all let us discuss what is this oscillation. So this oscillation basically is transfer of heat from Indian Ocean to the Western Pacific. Okay? And because of that heat, there are two phases of this phenomena, that is an active phase, one is passive phase. In the active phases, it leads to monsoon winds more. When monsoon winds are there, then creates more surface waves. Okay? When more surface waves are created, it creates the problem for the coast area. So this is the basic idea. Let us very quickly see. So this boreal summer intra-seasonal oscillation is a movement of the convection heat from the Indian Ocean to the Western Pacific Ocean. Tick. And that happens roughly 50 days during the monsoon season. Tick. Okay. And because of this active and the break period, because of which there is an intra-seasonal climate variability within the monsoon. For example, the breaks that come in monsoon. Sometimes monsoon becomes very strong, sometimes it becomes sometimes breaks comes in, and because of this we need the predictability. Now for example, when this has an active phase, in the case of an active phase, what happens, it gives rise to enhances the monsoon winds and it leads to surface waves. So this institute has found out that around 0.5 meter waves become higher in the active phase of this oscillation. Understood? Let us very quickly revise. So this boreal summer intra-seasonal oscillations are when the convection heat is transferred from the Indian Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, Western Pacific, because of which the monsoon winds are the intensity of the monsoon winds increases in the active phase, and that leads to increase in the surface waves height. When the height of the surface wave will increase, and that causes the sea erosion, for example coastal erosion, when the height of the waves will increase. So as to predict those, so as to see whether we can mitigate the impacts of it, that is why we need this information, right? So studying this will help to improve our wave forecast for the India's coastal and the mitigate adverse impact of the high waves, coastal flooding, erosion and all these things. It will also help in the sea navigation routes, and this is why this is critical. Chalo. So this is it. Now the third thing and the last one, that is we will also take one more subdivision topic. This is the first month we are covering in the 2021, and you can see the subdivisions that I am having, and over the period of time you will realize the importance of these such divisions. For example, last year also I have told you that energy resources are very, very critical when it comes to the preparation for UPSC, because UPSC focuses on especially on these renewable energy resources a lot. Okay? And for example, we'll see one question also where we can see that previous year question that we'll discuss today, where these energy resources become very important. Now, for example, this one is the geothermal springs in the Himalaya emitting large amount of carbon dioxide. This was in the news. So the scientists from one of the institutes, not important the name of the institute, they have said that a lot of geothermal springs, that is hot springs, are there in Himalaya, and when they emit the gases from the inside, they release a lot of carbon dioxide, right? a lot of geothermal springs are found in this Himalayan region. Now that goes to show, and this is basically not important current affair wise, but what is important from geography wise, that is the difference between hot springs and the geysers. Now hot springs and the geysers, if we talk about, so geysers are basically these and hot springs are these. Okay? These are the geysers. So these are basically the fountains. They come out in the fountain shape with the gases, with a very abrupt eruption, very massive eruption, because the water in the geyser is heated at this level, right? So underground passage, the water grows too much underground and water is heated at more above the boiling point. Whereas in the hot spring, the water goes inside and it's heated and it starts to come up. You can see this. You can see this is in hot spring. Okay? And from the logic also we can get now which will be more common, whether the hot springs or the geysers. Answer is hot springs. Hot springs will be more common. The geysers will be very rare, and this is the case. In the whole world, we'll find geyser not in many areas. For example, some geysers are found in Ireland, some in New Zealand, and very famous geysers are found in the USA. That is the Yellowstone National Park. Okay, Old Faithful geyser is there. One more geyser is there. So let us very quickly see. So geysers are basically the water, superheated thermal volcanic origin. The water is heated beyond the boiling point. They are the fountain of the hot water. The water is emitted with an explosion and we can see the gases coming out from it. Then we can understand, okay, now it's going to get out because the gas starts to seep out. Tick. As compared to them, the hot springs are the water has just sinks deep enough beneath the surface to be heated. So it does not penetrate a lot, unlike the geysers. In the geysers, it penetrates a lot, but in hot spring, it does not penetrate a lot. Tick. When it does not penetrate a lot, it is heated by the interior forces and it is mostly comes up without the explosion. And they are more common in nature. They are very common in nature. These are the hot springs. They dissolve the mineral also. They also have some medicinal value when they come out. And these are the hot springs that are present in India. So geysers are present in a specific area in the world. Okay? Now this is the Yellowstone National Park. You can see this is in the Wyoming state of the United States. So for example, this first one, this is the Old Faithful. Every 90 minutes the geyser comes up. You can see the height, 150 feet height they can achieve. And there is one more, that is Steamboat Geyser in the same national park. Okay? So that's the end of the session. Very three to four things that we have seen today. We will see more because in ecology and economy, as we have discussed, every month we'll have 2 sessions so that we can discuss both the topics in detail. Okay? Chalo. Let us see some questions. We start with a few questions on geography. 2 questions on geography. The first question asked in 2018 or 2017, that is on 21st June, the sun does not set below the horizon at Arctic Circle, does not set below the horizon at Antarctic Circle, shines vertically overhead at the noon on the equator, shines vertically overhead at the Tropic of Cancer. So first of all, you can pause the video and try this question. It was a good question. Very simple, very objective question. So this question will lie between the must and the strive category. These questions you must get it right, but because these are very conceptual questions, sometimes you can get into strive. But these can be solved from the very basic NCERT knowledge, and the UPSC expects you to understand the concept here. Chalo. You can again pause the video and try the answer. Now, if we talk about the movement of the earth around the sun, okay? First of all, I'll talk in a very layman language. I'm not a faculty of the geography, but still very simple language we will discuss. For example, this is equator, this is Tropic of Cancer, this is Tropic of Capricorn, right? This is the Arctic Circle and this is the Antarctic Circle. Okay? Now, if the earth moves around the sun on a tilted axis, right? So earth does 3 things. First, it revolves around the sun, that is the revolution. First is the rotation of the earth on its own axis, and the third, its axis is tilted. There are 3 distinct things that needs to be understood. First, the revolution around the sun. Second, the tilt on the axis, and the third is the rotation on its own axis. ठीक. Now, for example, on 21st June, what is the situation? On 21st June, for example, you are living in India. We are living in India. We can all see on 21st June what is happening. It's very, very summer days there, right? So that means that Earth's Tropic of Cancer is in front of the sun. That is known as the summer solstice. ठीक. Now, in this, the sun is at the Tropic of Cancer. When sun is at the Tropic of Cancer, so let us see few options. For example, then sun shines vertically overhead at the Tropic of Capricorn. This option becomes wrong. Sun shines vertically overhead at the noon at the equator. No, this is wrong. Sun shines vertically overhead at the Tropic of the Cancer. So these two options you can eliminate directly. Next, the sun does not set below the horizon on the Arctic Circle or below the horizon on the Antarctic Circle. What does this mean? This means that the sun shines for the whole day. And you can see that is there in the Arctic period. So here the sun shines continuously when this is happening. So there the sun does not go beyond the horizon. When sun is above the horizon, you can see the sun, you can get the sun ray, there is a day period, and in the Arctic Circle, the sun does not go beyond the horizon. So first of all, you need to keep in mind this date, this diagram, the dates more importantly, 21st June, 21st March, 22nd December and 23rd December. And this is the very basic diagram from your NCERTs, isn't it? And so the option will be option A, that it does not set below the horizon at the Arctic Circle. With respect to Antarctic, it is always below the horizon. Chalo. Next question is also there, similar to this. The variation in the length of the daytime and the night time from season to season are due to. The variation in the length of the daytime and the night time from season to season are due to. Now that is also need to understand in this question. The first option is Earth rotation on its axis, Earth revolution around the sun in an elliptical manner, latitudinal position of the place, and the revolution of the Earth on a tilted axis. ठीक. There you need to know the difference between why the day and night happens. Very basic concepts, है ना, 6th 7th class concepts. Day and night happens because of the rotation of the Earth on its axis. Because the Earth rotates on its axis, because of which the day and night happens. It has nothing to do with the tilt, for example. First, day and night, irrespective of the time, but day and night happens because of the rotation of the Earth on its axis. The second thing is that the seasons happen because the Earth rotates in a revolution. ठीक? Seasons happen because the Earth rotates on its axis, revolves. 4 seasons will be there. But the time of the length of the day and night are different because in the different seasons, different length of days and time because of the tilted Earth and the revolution of the Earth. Okay? It's very easy to understand, and I'm telling you, if you're not able to get from this particular session, go back and revise your geography concept, है ना? Because these are the questions are being asked in UPSC, and you can expect such questions going forward as well. From UPSC perspective, now these questions have become a must category, that you must get these questions right, है ना? Because earlier they used to be very conceptual, but now the level of questions that have increased. In that context, these questions becomes very tough in nature. ठीक है? चलो. So the answer is the revolution of the Earth on a tilted axis. The third question, that is on the lichens. Again, it's a previous year question. Lichens which are capable. So basically what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to discuss a lot of previous year question, and that will be my approach throughout the 7 to 8 months current affair that will cover. So that the previous year current affair should give us a window into how to prepare going forward. What are the areas we should focus on, how we need to focus on. And again, if you are following us, then you don't have to separately go for the previous year. Chalo. So the question is, lichens which are capable of imitating the ecological succession even on a bare rock are actually a symbiotic association of. Lichens are a symbiotic association of what? It was a very easy question. In fact, in your very basic NCRTs, this is written. The lichens are the symbiotic relationship of two things. First is, okay, the question is repeated here. So it's a symbiotic relationship of two things. First is algae and second is fungi. The algae is nothing but the cyanobacteria. Algae does the work of the photosynthesis. It produces the carbohydrate, it produces the food for the fungi. On the other hand, the fungi provides the protection, gathers moisture, nutrient, acts as an anchor for the algae. So when these two come together, they create a lichen. So lichen is basically a symbiotic relationship. It is the oldest living thing, one of the oldest living thing that is still present. And as we have discussed, as we have seen in the question, in the terms of the ecological succession, we'll see what ecological succession is later on. So in the terms of ecological succession, even on the bare rock, for example, flood came. So what is the first thing to be developed on a bare rock? That is a lichen. Then on the life evolves from this. For example, lichen develop, them some sort of mosquito comes and all these things. Lichens are also known as the bioindicators. If the air is badly polluted with, especially with the sulfur dioxide, the lichens will be a very good bioindicators of it. Okay? There will be no lichens present, just green algae will be found. And if air is clean, you will find the lichens there. So lichens are also said to be the bioindicators. They indicate the quality of the air. Chalo. So lichens are the symbiotic association of algae and fungi. The next question is, which of the following best describes the fundamental niche? Fundamental niche. It's a basic ecology conceptual question. Okay? Because I'm also challenging and while giving you this so that you also go back and revise your fundamental stuff. For example, I have taken the mentorship session of a lot of students. I've seen a lot of students though focus a lot of time on the newspaper, on the current affair, but sometimes they lack on the basics of the ecology, basics of the history, for example. They don't pay too much attention on it. But if you see the prelims paper, you will find out those basics are the most important part. Current affair is just a very small portion. Okay? And that is why we are also covering a lot of static questions in our discussion, as you have seen previously as well. Now talking about the fundamental niche. So these are the options. You can pause the video and try the answer. Let us discuss the solution. Now first of all, what is ecological niche? So ecological niche means a species is there. So an species and ecosystem. So what is the range of condition in which the species can reach? So range of condition necessary for the persistence of the species. Whether that conditions are present in a particular habitat or not. Secondly, what is an ecological role of that particular species in that particular ecosystem? So that place will be known as the ecological niche. That is the first part. Okay. So it is basically describes the functional position of an organism in an environment. It is the habitat in which lives. It is what it does in it, what it resources it obtains from the habitat. Iska matlab, you can understand the place which is your particular safe place. For example, if you have your own room, for example, you can imagine it like, okay, this is your niche, a small one. Okay? Right. Then what is the difference between a fundamental and the realized needs? The fundamental niche is basically when there are no limiting factors for an organism. There is no one to limit that organism. That is a fundamental niche. For example, if you have a room, you have a brother, for example, you were alone, for example. The whole house was your niche. Now your sister has come or a new second brother has come. Now there is a competition. So now this is remaining one is your realized niche. Your mother says this is your room, this is your room. Now your niche has reduced. Now because of the competitions that are coming up. Okay? So fundamental niche is the niche of an organization given there are no limiting factors. It is a pre-competitive niche. It's a type of a theoretical niche. Because theoretical, why? Because such does not exist. There are a lot of organisms. Obviously, there will be some competition among the organisms. So there cannot be it's just a theoretical model. On the other hand, the realized need means In the presence of the competitive species, what is the presence? So they are the realized niche. ठीक है, चलो. So answer is, it is the largest ecological niche that an organism can occupy in the absence of an interspecific competition and predation. That is the fundamental niche. Similarly, the question can come on the realized niche as well. ठीक है. So fundamental niche is different from the realized niche. Fundamental niche is the largest ecological niche in which an organism can occupy the place. Chalo. So that is it. Let us see the last question. And it was the question I was highlighting. The energy resources that are there. For example, let us see the question first. In the context of which of the following are the term pyrolysis and the plasma gasification are mentioned? Extraction of the rare earth metal, natural gas extraction technologies, hydrogen fuel, and waste to energy technologies. Now, as I told you last time also, the energy resources are very critical. In the energy resources also, those are also very critical, which converts the waste to value, waste to energy. Those are also very critical to understand. That is why these gases, these methanes and all these things you need to just keep in mind. Any new technology that is coming up. Hai na? Now, for example, in 2016, I think this question has come, and at that time, these technologies were getting into the prominence. What is pyrolysis? Pyrolysis is nothing but heating the content, the solids without the oxygen, without the added oxygen, right? So without the added oxygen, the everything is heated. They require, for example, every technique requires a specific input, so they require some sort of an homogeneous input. So this is the pyrolysis. Next is the plasma gasification. So in which the plasma torch is used as a method to convert this organic matter into this syngas. Syngas is what? Carbon monoxide plus hydrogen. Okay? So in this plasma torch is used to do it. So methods are different. Obviously, the methods will be different, but the task is ultimately to use this waste and to come up with the good output. So the answer is obviously will be waste to energy technologies. And you can see how easy the question is. If you just know any one of them, you will understand, okay, this was the question. And this is how you need to prepare. You just need to focus on the few topics which we are highlighting. Basically, the energy, for example, is one of them within the ecology, the energy sources. Chalo, so with this, we wrap the session up. We'll come up with a more ecology session in the September month and going forward. What we discussed in this particular session, we started our discussion on the Alliance to End the Plastic Waste, right? Then we talked about that Singapore-based NGO. Then we talk about a geography-based concept, that is a boreal summer intra-seasonal oscillation, so transfer of the convection heat from Indian Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, and subsequent in the active phase, subsequent increase in the wind pattern and subsequent height in the this wave. Because of the increased height, the chances of the marine erosion increases. Then third one is the geothermal hot springs, and then we have seen the difference between the hot spring and the geyser. Then we have seen the Yellowstone National Park. And lastly, we have done 5 questions. First question was with respect to this. First two questions were with respect to geography, the position of Earth around the sun, right? Then we have seen the one question on lichens, then one question on the ecological niche, fundamental niche and realized niche. And the last question was on pyrolysis and plasma gasification. So with this, we wrap the session up. We'll see you the next session. And the next session will be of art and culture and defense. And then we'll finally finish this month's current affair with science and tech. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.